right, welcome back, everyone, to the Morning Run Podcast, the best baseball podcast in the world. I hope you're all doing great today. It's a great day here in New York City. Me and Tyler just sat down to record. We've been talking. Figured it was a good time to press record and get started into baseball discussion. Tyler, what's up? How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. It was an incredible weekend of blessings. Truly for me, big music guy, big hip hop guy. There's some stuff going on. I know you're not too locked in, but it's okay. Kendrick Lamar is currently in the process of beating Drake to a pulp. It's a 10-7 round. It's over. I don't know why the ref hasn't standing in. He's basically a dead man walking, but it is what it is. Getting me very excited to be on the podcast.
Yeah, well, I've been locked in. I've been paying attention. I've been listening to them. I was saying to you earlier, the reason for that is because every time I say I'm going to set some time aside to listen to it, another thing comes out. So at this point in time, I'm just getting the Cliff Notes. It's fine. It's good. I'm enjoying a nice organic rap beef. At the end of the day, that is what makes rap exciting.
Kendrick's a demon,
right?
Bro. He comes out with that quick, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
even
really
know
was another one out. The crazy thing is, you haven't been paying attention. Mm-hmm. Like, the first diss track he released is kind of like classic Kendrick Lamar. Like, deep meaning in the lyrics, fire, like, transitions. It's very unique of a song from start to finish. Second one he drops is just violating Drake's life. Like, coming at everything on Drake personally. Like, just direct. And the third one he dropped is a certified anthem. Like, it is like everyone is dancing to it. You can't not move to the beat. Everyone knows it's fire. Even Drake said on his response, I would have danced that. That would be fire if you weren't coming at me, bro. Even Drake said that. So, that's how you know it's a beautiful strategy where Kendrick Lamar got everything and he's just on top. I don't even know what to say. Drake is done.
That's kind of what I've been gathering from what I've been hearing from you, from what I've been seeing on Twitter. It's pretty interesting, to say the least. I'm not really into rap music, but I know the rap beef is kind of a thing. But you haven't really seen an organic and actual, worth rap beef happening. But these are two of, both at their peaks, the biggest rap stars. Right now, Drake's, I would say, at his peak, right? Because he's getting the most views when he releases something, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah, we're in the era of Drake, not just in rap music, in music. Like, when Drake drops an album, it's not about if he's number one, it's how will he beat his records.
Yeah, exactly.
Set. That is the Drake status right now.
So back in the day when we were growing up, Kendrick Lamar had a crazy following. I remember, I'm not even into rap, but I liked his songs when we were growing up, right? So it's two of the big titans going at each other, which I think we haven't seen. And that kind of leads me into the segment I wanted to talk about very organically. But, we ended up talking about rap for a little bit. I was just looking at the MLB standings, looking at the titans of the sport currently and where they stand, and how things kind of match up so far. We're in May right now. This is the first week of, really May being the full week. And so we're having, MLB puts out their power rankings now. Of course, MLB has their own agenda, and there's 1,000,001 independent lists out there or whatever. So we're not here to say this is the list. Actually, quite the opposite. We're here to talk about it and see what it is. So I figured I'd just name the first 15. We don't have to go through every team, right? And then you can just tell me what you think about the top 10, and do you think anyone else that I labeled in that honorable mention extra 5 should be replacing them or whatever, and just give our thoughts quick. So the Dodgers, of course, are ranked number 1, then the Orioles, the Phillies, the Braves, the Yankees at number 5, the Guardians after them, Brewers, the Cubs, and the Royals are the top 10. Then following that, the Mariners, the Rangers, the Tigers, the Red Sox, and the Padres close out the top 15. Just any initial reactions to that right then and there?
I get why LA is 1. Makes sense. They have all the talent. They have the most talented team, and no other team record-wise has separated themselves, to take that spot. But, give me Baltimore, give me Philly, over LA all day, baby. You know.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you there. I've been as soon as that moment I saw that they didn't have any idea of what to do with shortstop, that they were putting Mookie Betts there. I knew right then and there that yes, the Dodgers are a great team and they have an extreme amount of talent, but things aren't as perfect as we think. So yeah, at this point in time, they might be good enough to be number one. But like you said, the Orioles seem like much more of a surging team. The Phillies, the Braves, the Yankees, the Guardians. Those are all much more exciting and teams that you would be willing to put yourself behind, even in a matchup against the Dodgers, right? So that first kind of six could all be interchangeable, more or less, right? That's how I feel about it. Then we get the end of the list there: the Brewers, the Twins, the Cubs, and the Royals rounding out that top 10. Any complaints there? Because the Tigers are ranked at 13, the Rangers at 12, Padres at 15. Some guys just missed that top 10. Do you think, the Royals are really starting to put some things together. Their rotation's looking scary. But the Cubs, didn't the Cubs just sustain an injury? Unless I'm just making something up.
I don't know. I mean, Cody Bellinger's been out.
Oh, that might have been what it was.
He's like been out.
Yeah, I guess so. So, other than that, like, do you have any thoughts about how that first top half of the league is shaping up?
No, I don't really think so. I am always fascinated by the Padres, just in general. Maybe they're a little too high in my opinion. But it is what it is. Who's 30 on that list? Is it the Rockies or White Sox?
Let me see. It's loading. 27 is the Angels. The Rockies are at 28, and then the article cuts off. Maybe I
So
have
the Rockies aren't even second to last. That's crazy. Maybe I guess Miami, like morale is super low for Miami right now.
no, the White Sox are 30 and 29 is the Marlins. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's because
those are all like the
vibes are
same.
down tremendous for Marlins. So
The Astros right now are at 26. The Cardinals are at 24. Yeah, the Mets are at 17. Blue Jays at 18. So yeah, this overall list, I think there's a lot of mishmash, but it's in like groups. So like that, like I said, that top six can all be interchangeable. Then that like 7 to 15 can all be interchangeable, I feel like. And then like that next group, I feel like could be all moved around. It's early. I just wanted something to talk about when we opened it up, but it brings us to our next point, actually, that I'm going to bring up now, the Padres. So the Padres made a big move. I guess it was yesterday they made it, or the earlier in the day. I forget exactly. No, the day before, right? Day before. Yesterday was his debut. So the Padres ended up making probably the biggest move of the season so far, trading for two-time batting champion Luis Araez. He's coming in to be a leadoff guy, I guess, for them, and they need a little bit more bat-to-ball skills, I guess you could say. Some people aren't producing out of the gate as well as they would like to see, I think. Mainly Xander Bogaerts, I guess. He was more their overall contact guy that they signed to bring in, right? So in exchange, I'm going to find out who they gave up. But just early thoughts on that trade, because
Dylan Heed was one of the fellas.
Yeah. Name-wise, though, this is probably the bigger trade that's happened this season, right?
Yeah, the Reyes.
Yeah.
No, Dylan Heed is one of the players in the trade.
No, I know.
Oh, I thought you meant like I was claiming that Dylan Heed trade, separate Dylan Heed trade rivals this Luis Araez trade. Never really know. Yeah,
No.
questioning move for the Marlins. I think it's a mix of two things. Like, that's what his value should be, Luis Araez. But, like, the context of the Marlins being the team last year, being competitive. We're talking about a team with guy who won Manager of the Year. Skip Shoemaker, right? Is Shoemaker over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what am I missing here that we're just completely resetting? I understand that this is like what I have been saying the Marlins should do, but like, it just doesn't make sense for what direction they have emphasized. It seems like they don't know what they want to do. They're very indecisive. with the direction of that team.
You know what? I think it has a lot to do with that owner, that majority owner Sherman, because for me the timeline when Jeter bought into the Marlins, right? I wanted to kind of make him my quote unquote National League team because of course, growing up New York, loved Derek Jeter and all that. So because of that, early on I paid a lot of attention to them, and then when he left the team, I was of course like, all right, there we go. I don't need to really pay attention to the Marlins that much anymore anyway. But for me, I wanted to look into the fact because it seemed like it didn't make any sense that Jeter would just leave the Marlins like that, just up and leave. And it happened in the middle of the players lockout and stuff. So I think a lot of people attributed it to him being like, I'm with the players. But come on, he's not going to give up all that money when he's running a team and that sort of thing. Like just because he's standing with the players, he's retired. That's not what I think the reality is Derek Jeter, being the hyper competitive person that he is, wanted the rebuild phase to go a little bit faster than it was going. And Sherman, who really controlled the money of the ownership group, was not willing to put up the bucks in the timely fashion he was. So I think subsequently you got moves like Avisail Garcia made where they needed some sort of pop. They went for a guy that was going to be, decently expensive, but you're not going to be paying a superstar because you're settling for that bottom tier guy because that's all you can at the point afford. But then you fell for something like Avisail Garcia, a guy who had one good year and you're overpaying for. I think you're forced in that box to make those kind of moves. And I think that's why Jeter left, and that's why eventually Ang was let go, because they said it was a mutual decision for both of them to part ways. Ang was the Kim Ang, right? She was the Jeter hire, and everyone loved what she was doing there. There were some things that people felt she could do better. Actually, funny enough, one criticism was the trade to bring in Araez, right? But nonetheless, she was on a path to really setting this team up for success, and it had a clear path with the pitching. But then they mutually parted ways, I suspect, because, again, conflicts with this guy, Sherman. He puts in his guy, Bendix, Peter Bendix is his name. He puts in his guy now to head the ship. And along with the fact that their top two most talented pitchers from this sort of rebuild are now out for the season, Sandy Alcantara and Yuri Perez, this is their perfect time to rebuild for them. And they're to do things in the way Richard Sherman is a football player. Bruce Sherman is the owner. In the way that he wants it, because now he not only has the money, but now the face and has all control of the team, right? I don't know if you're following that, but that's sort of what I see at this point. Now it sucks because now this is like the third reiteration of a rebuild that the Marlins have gone through in the last like 8 years. So for the fans, it stinks. But that's how I see it. It doesn't make much sense, but this is like his chance now to do the rebuild he wants because now he has all control, right?
Two funny Jeter Marlins notes. Jeter had breakfast with Avisail Garcia and said he wanted to look him in the eye and see what he really understood what it meant to be a part of the Marlins organization. Gotta say, Jeter's got a really good eye for that. And then the other thing that I think is hilarious just now, because I was trying to find details about that, but I also found this hilarious detail from the boy Miguel Rojas.
Oh yeah,
Derek Jeter was a great mentor to me and helped me to be a leader. That's what leaders do. And I believe Miguel Rojas was just in some crap for literally hating on his teammates, being a terrible teammate. So it's Jeter's on fire with his Marlins stuff right now.
Yeah, okay, but two things I will say, and it comes to that I'll just say, because look, I have to defend Jeter a little bit. They get me there. Yeah, I am trying to shift the blame from Derek Jeter signing Avisail Garcia. But come on, be real with me. If you're in the headspace that you're not going to be able to afford a superstar no matter what, you're going to have to convince yourself of some things of some lesser tier people. You're just going to have to. That's the reality. I'm not saying he made a bad move. He definitely, he was the guy that said they should sign Avisail Garcia, yes. But I think maybe if he had a co-owner that wanted to spend a little bit more money, maybe he would have had his sights set a little higher to begin with. That's all I got to say. But Jeter also got Jazz Chisholm, who's the face of their franchise in there. And Jazz Chisholm is the guy that outed Miguel Rojas. So if
reportedly
Chisholm, Derek Jeter are boys,
just saying. Also,
it's not really
pivotal in the Sandy Alcantara extension with a lot of people look positively on.
Mm-hmm.
Help you out there, but yeah, the Rojas stuff is just another level of funny.
No, that's hilarious. But that's between Jazz Chisholm and him because Jazz Chisholm was like just talking shit, right? Pardon
Yeah,
the
and I mean,
language.
well, now with the Dodgers, it's like the Dodgers was like, this dude is so awful for us that we need to move Mookie Betts to shortstop. Like
Yeah.
we need to
Yeah.
just go crazy.
Yeah,
So like,
exactly.
really tells you Rojas, Jeter really evolved him. Could have used those leadership skills to secure that Dodgers shortstop spot versus literally no one. He was fighting against no one. They had to move Mookie Betts to a new position to take his job. So.
Well, I think this is a good time to segue into to our final topic. We just wanted to check in on two things. We began the pod talking about the power rankings, right? And two teams that stand out there, I think you wanted to discuss. We'll get down into the nitty gritty of it all. Two teams that are standing out so far among the pack right now are the Cleveland Guardians and the Philadelphia Phillies. Both of them in first place in their respective divisions, right? And both of them just on rolls. And at the moment, probably the two hottest teams in baseball right now, I would say. The Phillies right now are 24-11, 2.5 games up on the Braves, who were seen as one of the favorites of the world to win the World Series to start the season, right? Early in the season still, but this is their competition within the division. The Phillies are matching up. Then the Guardians. I mean, we spent the whole offseason, every time we mentioned the AL Central, you would have thought we were talking about the Little League World Series with the way we were talking about these teams. And the Guardians not only are winning the Central, but they look like a very good competitive team, right? So, Tyler, what are your thoughts early on? I don't know where you want to start, American League, National League, but what are your thoughts? Why do you think both these teams really have it together so far right now?
Yeah, I think the key. Let's start. I'll start with the Phillies, but in specific, I think the Phillies are showing how valuable continuity is. What I mean by that is it's seemingly like 3 seasons that they've got pretty much the same team, very similar core. Obviously, Trey Turner added last season, but like really. Most of these players that they've had, they'll bring in guys like the trade acquisition guys like Brandon Marsh. He's still in the team, he's still playing. And by the way, 119 WRC plus, looking like a great player. Alec Bohm is on fire right now, 183 WRC plus, playing out his mind. Bryson Stott's having a great year. We're looking at a team that just sticking with a lot of their players, keeping with it. And I think we're seeing like the max peak of a lot of these guys and how well-rounded this team can be. And they stuck with these guys. You look at the bullpen. Sir Anthony Dominguez still there. Jeff Hoffman, a guy that's been around with the team, not just a new fella. Jose Alvarado, who's been there for a long, long time in the closer role. It's seemingly I think it's been the whole run that they've been in the playoffs and had the success. So I think there's so much to the Phillies that speaks on their success, but it's keeping all these guys. And of course, the rotation is looking amazing, like a lot of people expected. And all those guys, for the most part, have been there. They've stuck with them, and it goes a long way because I really do believe in this Phillies team. Even with some of these guys like Alec Bohm's not a 183 WRC plus hitter, but he's going to, I think, probably have a pretty good year, like a breakout year for his standards. It's going to come down, but he'll be pretty good at the end of the year, and all these things are going to be valuable. So that's why I really like the Phillies.
Yeah,
if you have any commentary.
I got to say, I agree with a lot of that because, I was watching the Phillies game last night against the Giants, and they were it was Sunday Night Baseball, right? So they were talking to the players. They were highlighting Brandon Marsh for some reason. And I was watching at a restaurant, so I couldn't see the sound. Or I couldn't hear the sound, rather. But I was just watching everything, and it just kind of dawned on me, Brandon Marsh, he was just some random player on the Angels, probably one of their better players when he was there, but there was nothing of particular note. But now that he's on the Phillies, he seems much more important for them. He has his role. He's a good fielder. He's a average level hitter all across the way, every way you look at it. And it's just
Brandon Marsh has this season at least so far. It's short, but he has accelerated to the point where not an elite hitter, but he's above average performing this year. And so getting that from a dude who was a 4th outfielder on your team not a year ago is super useful. It's blessings in disguise.
Exactly. So that's my point, right? A few years ago, we were making fun of the fact, tongue in cheek, that their ball goes boom, right? They'd Don't play defense. They don't care about that. We're just going to put runs on the board and we're going to throw the ball 100 miles an hour and see what happens, right? But it's a bit more sophisticated than that now. Yeah, sure. You still got Nick Castellanos who can't field. You still got Kyle Schwarber who can't field. You move Bryce Harper to first base full time when he was a generational outfielder. Yeah, those on the face of on the surface that doesn't look or sound like necessarily a team that's got it all together, but they've supplemented their concerns with players that can do things really well. Like you said, Alec Bohm, total believer in. He's not 165 WRC plus, no, but he is an above average hitter who should fit in the lineup the way that he does. Same thing with Marsh, like you said. And then they've got people to just sort of fit around. Bryson Stott, Whit Merrifield, and Kyle Schwarber are kind of in this weird three position thing. Whit Merrifield can play second base and outfield, so you've got him moving around. Bryson Stott, Kyle Schwarber, who's then going to be DHing a lot of times. There's a lot of people that can move around and do different things, and I think that really works for them. And like you said, the rotation is just incredible with what they've been able to put together behind Wheeler and Nola. Taijuan Walker's been great. Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez are all guys that are very talented in their own right. And then just coming down the pike, I hope they still plan to use McAble in some way for the rotation in the long term. He was very highly touted. They've got Andrew Painter coming down next year probably. They've got the rotation in a good position, and very underrated, I think, is their bullpen. Sir Anthony Dominguez has been there forever through the bad and now with the good. I think he's really good. Gregory Soto is a good pitcher to have. Jeff Hoffman, they've turned into a really good late reliever, and Jose Alvarado, as when he was with the Rays rather, this was a guy that could throw really hard, but you really had no idea where the ball was going. And since going to the Phillies, he's become one of their most consistent pitchers. So yeah, that's all I have to say about the Phillies. They're a complete team, and I don't think people really want to sit down and look at it in that way necessarily. Um, they're going to be in for a rough stretch, I think, coming up. Trey Turner is hurt for a little bit, but other than that, I don't see why they shouldn't be seen as one of the favorites for the rest of the year. Like I really like them.
Yeah,
I really do.
for sure. Phillies
But
are a diff breed. They're just like they've been there too. Like it's not like the other team that
that's
we'll
true too.
talk about in a second that hasn't really been there in the playoffs. Like this is a team that's played in a 7-game series as their final series for 3 straight years now. The Phillies, so like they've been there. You can trust them.
Exactly. They're battle tested. That's the phrase. Thank you. They're battle tested. The other team, the Guardians, I wanted to bring up is a little bit of a different situation. Like I said, we disrespected them to start off the season. We really talked about the Central as some random division. We'll see what happens. And then when you look at it on the face of it, their outfield's a bit of a mess. They are still actively moving people around. Just looking at the Fangraphs depth chart right now, Kyle Manzardo, who is just being called up, is now slotted in to be their primary first baseman, moving Josh Naylor to primarily DHing now. It's probably a good move. Josh Naylor's a crazy good hitter this season. Protect him. Don't let him get hurt in the field when he's also, as far as I know, not like the best defender. So, and then Kyle Manzardo is a really highly touted first base prospect across baseball. Do that, like fine. But if you're making these moves, you would think that they're maybe in the middle of the pack. They're not. They're trying to find their identity, right? No, they're at the top of their division, and they look like they're really setting themselves apart. Very quickly before I turn it over to you, their outfield looks like a mess. Steven Kwan's their outfielder, is their left fielder. Yeah, sure. But then they're going with like a platoon of Tyler Freeman, Estevan Florial, Will Brennan, and Ramon Laureano for center field and right field collectively. It's, again, that's a first place team. I didn't know that, right? Brian Rocchio is their primary shortstop. I don't even think he is rostered in our fantasy league. So, yeah, Tyler, I'll turn it over to you. Surprised? You expect this?
I'm not too surprised. Like again, I think both of us have been quite upfront in terms of what we expected about Josh Naylor going into this year.
Yeah.
Like we both were like, this is a guy offensively that'll probably break out into like an all-star level player. Like, and everything that has happened so far has seemed that way. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
we all know what Jose Ramirez is. I've been back since COVID when I've been saying he should have won that fake MVP award that they gave out for 60 games. That was his. You know, how many times have we talked about him in the MVP discussion? He's
Yeah,
a
where's Jose
superstar.
Abreu now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he's a superstar. So these guys are, I think, great centerpieces to have. And when you have that, plus a really good rotation, and enough offense around those two guys, you can really go places. We talked about the Central. I still am not too impressed by the Central. What I'm guessing is the Guardians are probably going to run away with this division, but I think that they've been impressive. There's no doubt about that. And they're in a great position to advance and move forward and probably make the playoffs this year.
Yeah. Now, for people who think that that's a little bit premature to say, I mean, their only competition at this point, I feel like, is obviously the Royals and the Tigers too, you could say. But here's the thing, maybe in the long term, but the Royals, the sustainability of them, I'm not necessarily sure. The rotation's been really good, but at the end of the day, their rotation is filled with guys that no one knew anything about at this point in time of the year in terms of Seth Lugo is barely keeping himself in a bullpen with the Padres, I think. I don't even, he lost his starting spot by then. No one knew who Cole Reagans was at this point in time in the year. It wasn't until later in the season that people found out. And all the other guys that they had that they put in, I just off the top of my head are blanking. Like these were not pitchers that by themselves you would say, oh yeah, you add them to a rotation, that takes it to the next level. But they're playing that way collectively, right? But with the Guardians, like you said, that rotation is really good. It's really young. It took a hit losing Shane Bieber for the year, but I think they're still gonna do pretty well. Any final thoughts, Tyler?
No, yeah, I mean, I really do like what they've done with their pitching rotation. Like, I don't know, Gavin Williams is back yet, but I really like him. Tanner Beebe, looking good. Tristan McKenzie, he's my boy. So I think they have enough there, and the bullpen for them has looked really good. The Guardians have done what they need to do, I think, to put themselves in a great position. Only team maybe Twins, but I think they have more flaws than the Guardians. The Guardians have a lot of young guys that they can rely on if they lose pieces and falter on that depth. They have really good farm system to replenish that. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really am not that scared of the Twins, to be honest with you. It's a good thing you brought them up because I totally forgot to mention them. I guess that's what happens when like all the teams, no one's like setting themselves apart as like a superstar team, like we talked about, in the beginning in that kind of first five, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Braves, the Phillies, those kind of teams. But they're playing like it. They're certainly playing like it right now. The Guardians. I guess I'm going to end with my final thoughts of something that I just saw before we recorded. Maybe we could talk about this next week or something, but the Tigers released their City Connect uniforms, and it's basically looks exactly the same as the Phillies, just without yellow font. So that's great. I love that the last final City Connect jerseys really weren't that like interesting. I'm sure there's some hidden meaning, blah 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 blah. Because I see right now in the MLB article, rich history of Detroit. Whatever. That's my final thoughts. The City Connect jerseys this year were pretty bad, except for Tampa. Guys, thank you for listening to the Washington's Fantasy Podcast. We'll see you next week. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share around with everyone, because after all, this is the best baseball podcast in the world. So we'll see you guys next week.